Here's a give to Jim Brown, sweeping left end. He's caught back at the 7, gets a block, hit back at the 5, fights away to the 4, to the 2. One hand's on the ground. Jim Brown bolts into the end zone. Touchdown for Jim Brown. Collins out 7 at right end. Handoff, Jim Brown, left end. 20, 25, gets away to the 30, 35 to the 40, to the 45. He's done.
In 9 glory-filled years of professional football, Jim Brown heard the voices and sounds of cheering crowds. But there were other crowds, other voices. These sounds he also heard.
We're going to moan together. We're going to groan together. And after a while, we'll say, freedom, freedom, freedom now. If we are all wrong,
put your fingers on me.
If we're all wrong, arrest us all.
It will probably be bloodshed in this town tonight, and I don't want it.
An absolutely incredible scene. A gun battle in the middle of a Negro ghetto. A small army of police, most of them carrying shotguns. National Guardsmen riding in jeeps with 30 caliber machine guns. Bodies of several Negroes who have been shot already in this battle, stretched out beside the curb.
It is not my way of fighting, but yet I don't crucify it because I don't crucify a king's way. Yet that is not my way. I think we should choose the right method. I know that I have an organization now wherein we plan to do something, but we plan to educate the Negro. We plan to try to produce, achieve, and prosper. We plan to go the economical route.
Jim Brown now runs for his dream deferred. And these are the reasons why, told in his own words.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. It would have been very nice if we had a full house tonight, but somehow, when things like this happen, it sort of tests your courage. It sort of lets you take a look at yourself and see where you're really at. It lets you look at yourself and say, well, am I going to fold up? Am I going to get discouraged, or what am I going to do? Well, most of you know my history. You know that I've probably been involved in almost everything there is to be involved in. You probably know that I've been fighting ever since I was a little boy. And when I leave here tonight, I'm not going to think that we didn't have 12,000 people. I'm going to think that we had all of you. And I'm going to think that when I leave here, that all of you are going to dedicate yourselves to self-help and betterment. Now, there is a struggle going on in this country. We all know about this struggle. We know what we want, and we know that one day we're going to get it. The confusion has come about because of the methods that has been applied in trying to gain this freedom. The Constitution of the United States says that all of us should have freedom of speech, religion, and so forth. It does not say that one portion of our society should have more freedom than another. In fact, the theory and the philosophy that built this country is a very, very wonderful one. But as all of you know, this theory and philosophy is not always carried out. We know that the methods that have been employed to bring about freedom, a lot of them have failed. A lot of them have caused a lot of trouble in the streets. The Negro man in this country has not really attained his full manhood. All of us have a great desire to be equal in this society. A lot of us has participated in the various methods to win freedom. A lot of us have been disappointed. We all know what self-help is. We all know that every last citizen in this country can better his individual situation if he tries to apply himself. We are saying very simply that here is an organization which will try with all its might to help each and every one of you if you are interested in helping yourself. Now, we have various organizations around the country. We have the Nationalists. They say that we have to develop a separate economy and that the man, whitey, is no good. He cannot be trusted. There is not one white man that is good. This is not true. Forget that. That is completely false. We have another element that says passive resistance is the answer. Now you think about that. And in your own mind you decide what you think about passive resistance. This is not going to work. Now there is some of us who say there is another way. There's a way that you can walk tall. You can apply certain principles to better your lot in this country. You can tell the man that, yes, you have discriminated, but there are certain ones of you that want to do something and that's trying to do something. You can apply yourself. You can endeavor to better your lot. The only thing you have to do is do what so many other minority and ethnic groups have done in the past history of this country. It's not very hard. We talk about economic betterment. You know what it brings about? You know what dignity is? You know what pride is? You know what respect is? These are the things we're talking about. And you start with respect, because in this organization, we believe that respect is the keynote to everything. You have to be respected or you're not really going to be loved. There is a need for application. There is a need for dedication to work. We can't blame the other man for a lot of our inadequacies. We have to blame ourselves a great deal. Because every time you get a chance to do something first class, and when you get a chance to compete, brother, you had better do that. Because when you're talking about freedom, you're talking about competing. We have an organization that has a philosophy that all of you believe in. There is no doubt, black, white, bigot, liberal, whatever have you. You have to believe in the philosophy of free enterprise because that is what the country was built upon. We're not going to talk about black power because somehow it's just a phrase that rings out. It's a good rallying cry. There's no real definition of black power. The press has taken it and twisted it into something that is very sensational, but nothing else. It has been a crutch for a lot of people who did not have a program. So what we're saying to you is that you understand what green power is. You understand that. You know what it means to be able to feed your family. You know what it means to have a job so that you can have some dignity and some pride that you are providing for yourself. You know what it is to be educated. You know what it is to have certain luxuries. You know what it is to be able to accomplish something and feel the admiration of other people. You know what these things are. Within the power of each one of you, you will be able to feel all of these things in a greater way if you adopt the philosophy that we are trying to put over to you. Now, when you talk about green power, it sounds very commercial, but it's not commercial. What I'm saying to you in closing is that we all have an opportunity to better ourselves. We all have an opportunity, believe it or not, to going on to much, much greater heights. We cannot be lazy. We cannot sit back and let someone else do it for you. You can't say, well, that's Jim Brown's organization. Let him do it. We'll see if he's going to succeed or if he's going to fail. Really, I'm very tired of hearing all of our problems blamed on the other man. We know about discrimination. We know about all of the hardships that our people have gone through. We know about the castration of the black male. We know about the strength of the Negro woman because the mother became an image in the house. We know of all of these things. We know that our black women have been taken advantage of throughout history. We know that we do not get the big part of the stick, but we also know that we don't take advantage of the opportunities that we do have. It is up to you, the people, to take full advantage of this organization, because all we are offering you is every bit of talent and energy that we have. And if you can't take advantage of that, then don't let me hear you cry about what the man is doing.
Jim, American Negroes have been taken by a wide variety of charlatans and medicine men and high priests for a century. And now comes Jim Brown with the Negro Industrial and Economic Union. How does anybody know that you're not just another slick character or taking advantage of prestige and hero worship?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that the individuals who are sitting downtown in their beautiful offices and who don't come out to see what's going on will never know, because they're there. I think one would have to consider the personnel that is working with Jim Brown. Many, many individuals with tremendously fine reputations around the country.
You ask every Negro to join the union, but he has to kick in, he has to pay for his membership. What do you do with the money and how's it going to be used?
Well, actually, we not only want Negroes to belong to this organization, we want whites also, because we feel that we would like to develop in the area of economics, and this includes everyone. But what he gets for his money is this. He supports an organization that will be staffed with very competent people to render him service in various areas as far as economics are concerned, all the way from the grassroots up to the middle class bourgeoisie type of Negro. Some of our services might only concern itself with counseling. In 4 or 5 years after we have built up a sufficient amount of finances, we will then go into loans, taking the special situations of Negroes, keeping this in mind. So there are many services that he will get for his $2 or $5 or his $100 charter membership.
You want to put the Negro into business, is that it?
Well, yes, this is a great part of it. This is probably the main part that we talk about. We also would like to instill pride into him. We'd also like him to educate himself, take advantage of all available educational facilities. There are many things that we would like him to do, but one of our main points as far as the organization is concerned is in the area of business, because we have been tremendously lacking there, and business, as you know, play a great part in our economic system in this country.
Jim, how does the Negro who has not been involved in business on a major basis anywhere, with a few exceptions in localized areas, How does the American Negro propose to get into manufacturing in a significant way, run a business on a competitive basis with people who have been involved for decades?
Well, the first thing that you have to realize is that there are very many competent Negroes out there. If you know anything about Negro history, you'll know that we've had some of the outstanding inventors, we've had some of the outstanding minds, but because they had outstanding minds and they didn't have anything else to go with it, they were taken advantage of. One of the first things we would like to be able to do is teach Negroes certain principles so that they won't be able to be taken advantage of. We then move into the area of better business practices, the established practices that means success if you follow through. We then move into the area of working with them and obtaining loans from the existing loan institutions. There are so many basic things that have been overlooked by Negroes in the past that we can teach until it's not funny. So it's not a job that's impossible. It's a big job. It's a time-consuming job, but it's one that has clear-cut methods.
Jim, you mentioned black nationalism. What do you think of that movement? You've been identified with some of the leaders of that movement.
Oh, I know quite a few of the so-called black nationalists, and I pride myself on this because the first thing that an individual shouldn't do is remove himself out of the mainstream of any group. He should understand them, he should be able to communicate with them, and he should be respected by them. That is the only way that we'll ever solve our problems. The so-called black nationalists in this country are not really organized. This is, once again, a fragment of the imagination of our newspapermen and TV announcers. There's really no strong nationalist group in this country that's black, period. And you have fragmentations of guys that say they're black nationalists and they preach black supremacy. But these guys are just guys who are in a situation where they don't have anything going for them, and they reach out and grab onto this, and they try to develop a pride among themselves by stressing this particular point. They give me a tremendous amount of respect because they think I call it like it is, and I give them respect because I understand their situation.
I think the most impressive thing about Jim Brown is his determination to stand up and tell it like it is. Be a man. Now, this has become more than just an official posture for him. It's become a reason, an explanation, a justification for every moment of every hour of every day that he lives. Stand up, be a man.
Jim, you've said repeatedly in conversations, in print, and in speeches that you think the Negro American has to stand up and be a man. Isn't he a man now?
Definitely not. Under the system that we live in, this is what we're fighting to become. Negro man's manhood has been taken away. Throughout our history, it's has come out this way. For example, in the South, the white man persists in calling the Negro boy. It's a very simple type of thing, but it has great meaning. It goes deeper than just saying boy to a man that's 35 years old. The Negro man have been passive throughout his history. The mother have become the image of strength in the family. The new breed, and I hope I represent the new breed, hope to change all of this. We would like to take our rightful place in this society and be respected because of our inner strength as a man. And I think respect is a key word there. You respect a man. You can like a dog or a cat or anything, a person less than a man, but you have respect for a man. And what the fight is all about is for self-respect and respect from other people.
Jim, what about the violence we've seen over the last year or two? Do you abide by that? You indicated you didn't.
No, what violence is this?
The violence in the streets, the riots that we've had in New York, Los Angeles.
Well, this is a good question. One must realize what violence is. When one studies the statistics of casualties out of these so-called riots, it becomes evident that only Negroes are being hurt and only Negroes are being killed. So, it's very hard for me to talk about the violence from the standpoint of Negroes because I don't think Negroes in those situations in Watts and Harlem killed anyone.
Was there a reason for the riots?
Well, how can one say that there's a good reason for a riot, for many people to be in the street breaking windows and overturning cars? Regardless of what reasons there are, this is just mass destruction of property. There are other methods that I would advocate. I don't advocate riots at all, regardless of the reason, because from a military standpoint, it's a stupid gesture, and from any other standpoint, it's ridiculous.
And what you advocate is the joining of Negro dollars into this economic union. How long is it going to take before you get anywhere with this?
Well, we got somewhere the first day that the idea was implemented.
Jim Brown is perhaps a revolutionary in essence. He has the same kind of passion that maybe all revolutionaries have. It's a kind of feeling that's easy to misunderstand. Sometimes we forget that the men who started this country had that same kind of passion. And unless we recognize the Negro fight for equality to be part of our own, then we drive them to extremes like black power, black nationalism. Jim Brown's dream of Negro unity is a good dream. It may offer a sensible and realistic approach to what has become a deplorable problem. It at least deserves an honest and fair chance. And more than that, it deserves our understanding.
Keep that in mind. Keep it in mind that the Negro Industrial and Economic Union is not Jim Brown's organization. And it belongs to the people, because the philosophy belongs to the people. And it is up to you, the people, to take full advantage of this organization, because all we are offering you is every bit of talent and energy that we have. And we're going to win.
Get the information to me.
This is Jim Brown today, working in his Negro Union office.
Tell them that I've talked to you and see if their attitude is one wherein they would be interested in having you come to their school. And I'm sure that if I call them and show an interest, that they'll at least realize that it's a legitimate thing. And if that doesn't work, and if you can't go, if they're not going to accept you, then I think possibly we'd better concentrate on having you stay with the job that you have. Also take an interest in this product that we have that might be a money-making device for you, with the idea of maybe getting a partial scholarship later and paying a part of it yourself. Yes. So that'll be about all I could do. But then in the meantime, I think that you probably better come in and get your union membership. Because
now, in order to get this union membership, I mean, what would I have to do? I mean,
Well, it's very simple. Just come in. The girl will be at the desk. The price is $2, $5, $100, unlimited. If your situation is pretty bad, then I'm sure maybe it'll just have to be a $2 membership. But $2 membership will give you the right to have me working for you and calling for you, or whatever have you. So, but we want you to have a card. We want you to be a member, and that's always the first step. Our slogan basically is that we'll help anyone who is interested in helping himself.
Now Brown explains how the union works for its members.
We're working on two ends. We're working to have the examples out there, and we're also working with the kids so that they can lay and have the basic foundation. And that's why we say we are a very flexible organization, because we are trying to work with the specialized problems of the Negroes. We're not using existing rules that are applied when you go to the SBA, SBDC, or ICBO, or your various banks around the country. You know, these rules are basically set up for white businessmen, because white businessmen have known the heights of success. Negro businessmen haven't. Consequently, they might fall down on one point and come up on all the other points, but they won't qualify at a bank, or they won't qualify with SBDC. But consequently, we have an organization that will say, look, now you have a specialized problem here. We have a counselor. He can train you. He can help you here, and you can come up to these standards. So this is the kind of thing that we were actually trying to do.
Now the reasons Jim Brown feels the Union can succeed.
All through my life, I have been faced with prejudice, but also all through my life, I have been fortunate enough to find people of all races. And I think there are about 5 men that I really consider real outstanding human beings that I have come in contact during my lifetime. And to be perfectly honest with you, 3 of these men were white. And they were just fine individuals. So consequently, the difference, the great difference in what, say, a Muslim might believe and what the average Negro that's been discriminated against might believe, is that the Muslim will say there are no good white people, period. The good ones, they're just going to fool you. The Negro who is aware of all of these things, aware that there's a tremendous amount of prejudice out there, he says this. He says, well, yes, the majority of them are like that, but there's some real fine white people too. And this is the thing that I think most of the people like myself believe, that there's a tremendous amount of prejudice out there, that we have been persecuted, but there's some very fine individuals who have been fighting for our cause and who will help and who will try to be objective and who will try to tell the truth.
Jim Brown now speaks about Negro pride and heritage.
There is a movement in this country among black people. You'll notice as you move around the cities that suddenly black men are wearing their hair very long. This never happened before.
What does it mean?
It means very simply because of all the things that have been brought out about Africa, all of the knowledge that the black man now has about his heritage and so forth, gives him a sense of pride. And he can now identify with something other than just trying to assimilate into this particular society. And consequently, there is a pride now that was never there before in being a black man. A black man can be beautiful, although his features might be broad. So forth and so on. The standards have always been the standards of white people, and we have tried to live up to those standards. Now it's not quite the same way. There is a pride that is definitely evident in the young Negroes in the country. They're going to the extent in Los Angeles of even saying, don't use the word Negro, say Afro-American. Well, I don't agree with this. A lady called me on a program and called me dumb because I used the word Negro. But it's even gone to that extent. But now, anyone that's out there that's going to do anything to help the Negro can't be a big-time Uncle Tom, or a man that is owned by the power structure, or a man that has forgotten his identity. You just aren't going to get anywhere with the young Negroes in the country anymore with that.
Jim, how well is the Negro who adopts the policy that this country is run by white devils, how is he going to make out with that philosophy?
Thank you. Well, actually, you cannot say that all white people are devils and so forth and so on. You have to form a separate economy. I can't say that at all because I don't believe that that's possible. I don't believe there can be a separate economy. I think that we all have to be aware that there are roadblocks out there and consequently fight these things with the idea that there are also some, good white people out there that's going to help you overcome these things. And this has been true over the years. I can't say how the person that believes that nationalism, or black nationalism, is the only road. I know that on the West Coast there is a lot of the so-called black nationalists, and they're mostly young. They're young, they're militant, they're very proud, and they have some good stories to tell. But I don't think that there is really a place for them as long as they believe that. And I just don't feel that any of the groups that feel that we can form a separate economy or anything like that will be able to flourish.
Here is Brown doing what he does best, standing up and telling it like it is.
If there was not a great deal of prejudice in this country, then the Muslim movement could not have been a successful movement, meaning that a lot of these things that you say that is negative on the part of black men were born out of the prejudice of white men.
And what I say to that is this, that if the country reached the point where all men were judged as individuals, black, white, or whatever have you, if you judge that man on his individual merit, then consequently Elijah Muhammad wouldn't have anything to preach. He couldn't tell anybody about a white devil who was going to keep you from getting a job, or who have persecuted you through the years, and about a bull Connor who was going to beat you across the head or anything like that. He just couldn't say that. And consequently, if he doesn't have this stuff to point up, then how is he going to be effective? He's going to have to find something else to talk about.
Now Jim Brown speaks about his association with Cassius Clay, the focal point again being the racial issue.
I think that we have, lived in this country so long, and we have thought of things in one way so long until it's so hard to divorce ourselves from the old way of thinking and try to revive the right way of thinking. Basically, Clay is defying the white world when he talks the way he talks, when he talks about the black man, and when he builds the black man to such great proportions. He is defying something that we have had to live with so long. In other words, in this country, the black man has never been a real man. Even in the Negro family, the mother has been the pillar of strength. She has been the one who the kids would always go to, because throughout the history of this country, the black man has always been pushed in the background. His woman has been taken away. He's never really had the status of being the pillar of strength in the home. And this man is actually defying this way of thinking. And in his way, agree with it or not, it might not be the smoothest way, but he's trying to call attention to the fact that he understands what has been going on, and he does not plan to go along in silence and not say something or not do something about it. There are many black men that are crying out in the same way. Bill Russell, for example, with the Boston Celtics, has done a couple of articles saying basically the same thing, but only in a different manner. So the only thing that you might be able to attack about Cassius Clay is his approach. You might call him rude. Yeah, other than that, I don't know what you would say. I think the American white man has never taken the time to actually evaluate his particular habits, and so many things that are taken for granted, and so many things that don't seem bad to him is very bad to the Negro man. In other words, there are many wrongs that are being done to the American Negro. There are a lot of things, of course, that have come a long ways. There's always improvement. We are traveling faster now than we ever have. But still, there is a matter of being a man. And this is the thing that I think that is boiling in the young Negro men in this country. I find it all over the country, especially in your young athletes, your young Negro athletes. Everyone say, well, they're making good money, they're educated, so forth and so on. They should be satisfied, but it isn't that. You try to find your place. You try to have what another man has, not as far as worldly possessions, but a feeling within you of being a man. And for so long, you've seen the older Negroes go along. You've seen them sell themselves out. These things bother you because it becomes a characteristic of your race. And you don't want that to be a characteristic of your race. Subdued people, people that can be bored out, people that are only jolly, people that sing and dance but do nothing else. This, I think, is what the young Negroes are trying to change, this image or this feeling. We don't want that feeling. I think when people do things for themselves, when they accomplish something, when they own something, when they can produce something, then I think there's a respect between men, black or white. If I have something, if I do something, you will, in most cases, respect me, whether you like me or not. After the respect is there, then I think that the like and the love and so forth will come. You will choose the individual that you like, whether it's black or white. But I think that the young Negroes now are thinking along my line as far as the economical route, and
In Clay's case, he is a one-man vendetta out there, and he's fighting. He's fighting in his way. I can't crucify him for it. It is not my way of fighting, but yet I don't crucify it because I don't crucify King's way. Yet that is not my way. But we're all out there. We're trying to make things better. And I think that we're calling attention to certain things. And I think that by calling attention to these things, white people will have a chance to reevaluate themselves and to take a good look and see if maybe they can't improve. And maybe they can't improve to a point where Clay will have nothing to say.
Yes.
You know, if things are so good,
said it so
and if
well.
things are right,
Yes.
there's nothing he could say. He'll be one voice out there.
What makes Jim Brown run today? Money, compassion, power, conscience, or anger? Maybe all of these things and more, but perhaps Langston Hughes touched the nerve and told the truth with his great line of prose when he said, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it explode?" And there's liable to be confusion when a dream gets kicked around. A dream deferred is not the private purgatory of any minority or the American Negro alone. It's another way of saying life is really short for all men, but agonizing and frustrating when opportunity is lost or denied. Every man wants to get the best from life or give the best to life. Many Americans, especially Caucasians or white men, find it rather hard to sympathize or understand any Negro movement or any action group or any union. But there's one way for any honest man to eliminate some of the confusion in his own mind. If he steps in front of a mirror and he asks himself, "What would I do if I were born black?" An honest man might very well answer, "I'd fight like hell for my dream deferred."
If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay